How many of you have already been in the attempts of navigating your child's school system and been so frustrated you're up to here with it? Yeah, very, very common. I know it was alphabet soup on what I have done, what I do, but over the last 2 years I also assumed the Section 504 Federal Compliance Officer for the district as well as the Health Services Coordinator for the district. That's not health education. That's truly health services, which is something I was always involved in for the medical kids under ESC. The reason that's important is with the reauthorization of Section 504 in 2012, one of the biggest things they stressed and that were to be implemented at the local level, which is the district level, which as in the state of Florida, I'll speak specifically to, we have 67 districts, 68 if you count Florida School for the Deaf and Blind. Every district was to come up with a template for an individual health care plan. That template had to be drawn up with a physician, nurses, and be approved at the state level. The reason for that document is your kids and every other child with a medical diagnosis. Every one of your children that has a heart defect should have an individual health plan on record at their school. That plan does not just stand alone. That document needs to be attached to a 504. Your child is eligible for a 504. Do not take no for an answer. Your child has been dealing with a heart defect from the time you found out, correct? Does that heart defect impact them on a daily basis? Depends on the severity. As they grow, as you've watched them go through surgeries, come out, how long does it take for that anesthesia to come out of their system so that they can think and function the way that they did prior to? We don't have stats on that. That's one of the things that Dr. Saidi and I have been talking about for years, is actually doing a study. These kids are impacted for life. To think that it's a single event is not true and not valid in any way. This is something they'll deal with for life. Therefore, that Section 504 plan needs to be created. The other thing that's beautiful, in 2012, they actually dropped off the requirement for a medical diagnosis. It doesn't require a diagnosis for a 504. It requires a group of professionals that witness the child struggling. If you are willing to be forthcoming as parents with your child's medical information for the school so they can be well informed and prepared, it's non-negotiable. Your child is eligible. Under HIPAA, as you are very well aware, you don't have to share anything you don't want to share about your child. And trust me, I have it happen daily. Well, they should have known the kid had seizures. I start pulling paperwork. Nowhere does it say the kid had seizures. But now they're upset at us because we didn't know. Oh, well, I thought my wife wrote it. Well, I thought my husband wrote it. Well, I thought their grandma put it down. It doesn't matter. If we don't know, we can't help. Section 504 plans are extremely powerful. It is a lifetime document. That is a birth to death document. 504 plans are written. I have helped colleagues within the school system get a 504 plan. One recently was just diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So they found the lesions. All of a sudden, she's starting to have the vision issues. We did a 504 for her because you know what? No matter where you work, if you need accommodations, you should receive those accommodations, not to give a leg up or a benefit, but to level that playing field to allow that person to do the job. That's what it is for the child. We're not giving them an unfair advantage. We're simply saying, listen, this kid's gone through A, B, C, and D. We notice when we're teaching a concept that little Johnny might sit there and look at you and go, okay, well, guess what? That 30 seconds or a minute and a half that passed by, that kid got nothing. Because we're looking at a processing deficit. And if we don't acknowledge that deficit and take that into consideration for that child's ability to learn, we're remiss as educators. We owe it to them to identify and put things in place. What do you do for kids like that? I could spend a day up here, to be honest with you. So I'm doing a spray and pray right now to try to give you some, I want to plant some seeds with you so that if you need to go back and if you need help, you'll have my number, you can call, we can email, whatever, anytime, any day. So I'm just seriously doing a spray and pray, but I want you to understand, every child that has been seen and is being cared for as a heart child should have a 504 in place. They should have an individual health plan in place. Schools will freak out. I'm going to tell you right now, they're going to go, whoa, 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 we don't do that here. Oh, you have to, it's federal. This is not because you live in Podunk at all. It's federal, it's non-negotiable. What that simply means is the doctors write up an emergency plan of care. If A, then B. The school system then has to take that information with a registered nurse. Only a registered nurse can write the individual health care plan. That nurse literally takes that information and puts it on the school-approved form and attaches it. Their job is also to let those that may come in contact with your child know what to do. It's truly an emergency plan, but it is a federal document. Now, shifting gears a little bit, because again, I'm telling you, I could literally talk about IEPs or 504 forever. Let me give you the delineating factor between why a 504 versus an IEP, which one's better, what is my child entitled to? No child is entitled to anything. There's no entitlement clause in the federal language. It is, what does the child need to be successful? But it's not an entitlement. But my kid's dying, and I get it. Yeah, how many of you are from Florida? Good number of you familiar with the McKay Scholarship okay? I get calls daily. This is a former governor. State has set money aside, and if your child has disabilities, you can tap into this scholarship, which has a set amount of money to it based on the disability and the related services, and you can take your child to any private school. That chunk of money will go with them to offset your cost for private school, okay? So I get calls daily. My kid's got ADHD. They said for me to get a 504 so you guys will pay for him to go to private school. Probably not. Probably not. And they want to take him to the $15,000 a year school on the $4,800 the kid's going to get. So it's never an entitlement. It's never, they have to have it. It's not an IEP to look at the difference between an individualized education plan and a Section 504 plan. If your child has undergone multiple surgeries that have been, truly full on under anesthesia, couple hours, we're looking recovery, we're looking hospital time, you hate to say it, but you're going to have a much higher percentage of those children that have processing deficits that could potentially become delayed in their ability to learn grade level material at the same rate as their peers. It's not saying they can't learn. It's not saying they don't have the ability, but what we're saying is it might take them longer, so they might actually become labeled specific learning disabilities, SLD. What that means is this child can learn, but we know that when we come to the identification process, we need to write goals specific to where the child is weak. Maybe it's math computation. Maybe it's reading comprehension. Maybe it's fluency. We don't know where. That's where Dr. Bartnick would come in as a psychologist and test the child. Now, for a child to be eligible for an IEP with a heart defect, 99% of the time they're going to be looked at for the other health impaired program. The next most common is SLD. So those are the two for our heart kids that we see the most. Now, my district is not little. We've got 43,000 kids. We're a large district, so I've got a good smattering of kids to pull from. But when you really look at that, you're looking at it requires a diagnosis for any IEP. It requires a doctor's diagnosis. Remember, the 504 doesn't require a diagnosis. It requires a group of people knowledgeable about the child to determine whether or not we're witnessing things keeping this child from achieving. An IEP also means that that child is not on grade level academically. It's not a document to say, well, in the future they might. Well, in 3 years we might. It's where are they today? See, in IEP, you write goals and objectives to bring that child up to grade level using modified curriculums. And when I say modified, that might mean bringing a concept down 2 or 3 or 4 grade levels, but still teaching them the basic concept. Example, if we're teaching the solar system to a class of 8th graders, we give them all blanks on a piece of paper, label it, color it. What's the gaseous makeup? How many miles is it? And you have them label it all. For a child that's 2 to 3 grade levels behind or even more, you would give them all of that information, and then you would have them with a cheat sheet basically on the bottom to match up where do they go, or color them this color. You can modify that curriculum. On a 504, you cannot modify a curriculum. You can only accommodate. There's no modifications allowed. So an IEP is a tough document. And the other part about an IEP is it dies the day they graduate high school. It is a pre-K-12 document. It's an age 3 to 22 in the state of Florida. Some states have a different 21 or 23. But in the state of Florida, it's 3 to 22. So literally, when that child graduates from high school, that document's gone. Well, what happens if they still need accommodations? What I do in my district, because I had the ability to do it, was I set up back-to-back meetings. When the child was exiting their high school program, we would set up a meeting right after to put a Section 504 in place, because we already have the documentation that the child's already been identified as a child with a disability. Why wouldn't you? Everybody's there. Parents don't have to take another day off of work. You don't have to bring people back together. And you put that 504 in place, and you take those accommodations that we already know are tried and true, which is why the child is graduating and why they are successful, and you put them on that 504, and guess what? They walk into any college, university, trade school, doesn't matter where, and they say, I have this, and they go, all right, come on in. I haven't had one get turned away yet. IEPs, they will do a double take on. If the student hasn't been retested within 3 years of their graduation date and been shown to truly need those services, they may not put them in place for them. But a 504, again, federal document, lifespan document. 504, gen ed only, no ESE services. You're not going to be placed in a smaller teacher-pupil ratio. You can't. It's strictly for general education kids that need accommodations. And IEP is for that child that might need a support facilitation class, which is a teacher that might come in and out during the day to assist in specific subject areas. They might need a resource setting. They might need to go to a separate classroom for whether it's math, language arts, reading, whatever the case may be, but they can do science, social studies, and things out with their peers. Back to Dr. Bartnick's LRE, least restrictive environment. Least restrictive environment doesn't mean the most nurturing and caring where the teachers don't want to let them out of the room because there's only 5 kids. LRE means where is that child able to be the most successful? That's their least restrictive environment, okay? Have I thoroughly confused you? Probably. I'm going to stick around afterward, too, just to take questions and things like that. With the individual health plans, they're extremely important to have on file, and I encourage all of you to go back to your home districts. Have them look it up. It's called an IHP under the federal language, and they can look at the ADAAA reauthorization of 2012. It's right there. So the IEP and the 504 both spawned off of the 1973 Equal Education Rights Act. And what happened was the IEP went this way. To date, it gets about 15% of the funding it was ever intended to get. 504 is non-funded. So if your districts balk at it and you're like, listen, my kid can't write. Like, my son can't write. He is as dysgraphic as the day is long. Very, very smart, has a college degree, the whole bit. But I can't read. It's just hieroglyphics. Dot line, circle, half circle, dot line. He needed keyboarding. He's a genius on the keyboard. I would find it hard to believe that if you went back to your home district and said that you thought that your child needed a Section 504 and you wanted to try keyboarding, they'd be like, that's a great idea. They're going to go, whoa, well, we don't know much about that. We don't do that here. Everybody does it everywhere, and it's not optional. If you can, honest to God, how many of you are sitting at night with your children, laboring over homework for 2 and 3 hours? Yeah, all too common. And you know what it is? It's to distract the opponent, number one. They're going to distract the stew out of you because I can't do it. It's so hard. The teacher didn't teach us this. I've never seen this before. Oh, my God. And I don't know who's going to go flying across the kitchen first, but one of y'all is going, okay? You don't have to go through that, guys. The point to education is to teach children concepts and to teach them the building blocks to build on those concepts. Doing 30 math problems, if they can show me that they can do 10, and I'm looking at 80 to 100% on 10, I'm golden. I don't need 30 stinking no. Okay? Writing their words. How about the poor kid that just is never going to spell? Thank God for Word. Gotta love spell check. We'd all be sunk. How many of you use your phone to check a word before you send? Yep. All right? We all do it. The kids, they're going to have that same thing. I'm not saying spelling isn't important. Please don't. I'm not saying that at all. But good God almighty. Why does somebody have to be in tears every night because they have to write their words 10 times and put them in a sentence and then reverse the sentence and then write it backwards and then upside down? They don't. So there's ways to do it, okay? So that's my spiel in a nutshell. Is that good? I can keep going? Okay, well, I'm trying not to, I don't want to, how many of you do have children on an IEP right now? Good. Excellent. How about Section 504 plans? Good. That's very good. Section 504 plans, one of the things I implemented in my district this last year is an informal annual review, which makes every teacher sit down and go over the 504 with a guidance counselor or administrator, and they have to sign that they actually read it. Right? Pretty nasty ball, isn't it? With the reauthorization, when I took over Section 504, we had, I got to think about this, 2,800 kids on Section 504 plans. The district wasn't real happy with me, but I opened up, hey, open up the doors, what do I care? If the kids need them, they need them. I don't care. I ended my year with 5,200 this year. Rocking it, thank you. To me, that's what it's about. You know what that does? That gets the kids on the radar. Look at it that way. Look at a Section 504 plan as a red flag for every teacher and administrator that this child, you have to realize, whether it's a 504 or an IEP, they're both documents that say the child has a disability. They still fall under, are you familiar with OCR, Office for Civil Rights? I see some heads nodding. Office for Civil Rights. Our regional office is in Atlanta, and the Office for Civil Rights is the governing body of these documents. So when there's a complaint, there's nobody in the state of Florida that handles 504 complaints. Everything goes up to Atlanta, and when they get it, boy, they're like a dog with a bone. You get back a 26-page document telling they've alleged A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but you know what it comes down to? You gotta take care of the kids. If you get back to your districts and you really don't feel that they're listening to you and you're not really sure which direction to go, that's when our blood boils because you were told no about your kid. Tick me off, tell me no about my kid. All right, if I can sit there and tell you that I'm sitting with my child 2 hours a night, fighting through this homework, they're not getting it, we can't, and then the teacher, and I do want to see a show of hands on this. How many of you have gone to either a parent-teacher conference or an annual review? You're getting all the progress reports. James is great to have in class. He's such a sweet boy. Oh, little Jackie, she's doing great. And you get to the meeting and they go, oh, I got to just stand by his desk all the time. I can't get him to do anything. He'll just put his pencil down and not want to do anything. And then he won't do, but yet at the same time, they're saying he can do 30 math problems. Does he do them for you in class? No. Throw it right back at him. Don't hold back. Wait. His progress report said he's a great kid in class. Is he frustrating you? He frustrates me. Don't lie to me. And you know what? Seriously, when you turn it back, you'll actually get them to chuckle and go, you know what? It's just what I do. You've heard that from the teachers. You know what? It's just what I do in class. I'm so used to it. We just do this. I'm so used to it. We just do this. Okay. Ask this question next time you're in a meeting for your child. Mrs. Jones, you've got 20 kids in class. If 20's the smartest, and I do this to the teachers because I'm that district administrator that I'm probably not loved, okay? I'm just saying. Okay, so if 20's the smartest and one's not the brightest crayon in the box, where does Jimmy fall? And the teachers go, well, he's about here. But you just said how great he's doing and how strong of a reader he is. Why is he here? Like, well, he doesn't really understand what he reads, but he can read. Great, he's hyperlexic and he can read college materials, but he can't tell you the cat ran to the house. But he can read. He's got fluency. So you don't want to be adversarial, but you want them to think differently, because teachers are such mothering, coddling, they're their children, and I mean, you talk about taking it all to heart. I am a teacher. I brought my daughter with today, Shannon. Shannon's a teacher. She teaches kids with autism, okay? But you know what? When the kids get into her class at high school, by the time they leave, they actually can do algebra, where when they came in, they probably didn't even have a one-to-one correspondence. Granted, she gets them for 7 years, but I'm just saying, eventually it comes around. But you have to have expectations and raise that bar. You have to raise the bar of the teacher to give you more information. It's very easy for teachers to go in and get into their spiel. Everything's great. Oh, he doesn't get up out of his chair, even when there's a fire drill. Bad. Gotta get up. So push them, ask them, and literally put it subject by subject. Ask a specific question about the math. Oh, so I'm having trouble with them at home adding 3-digit and 2-digit numbers. Do you have that same issue? Yeah, he's not really doing that in class. Why are you sending it home for homework then? And they have to. By law, they have to expose them to grade level curriculum. But come on, toss you all a bone here. At least let you know, don't sit there for 5 hours trying to make him add 3- and 2-digit numbers when you know good and well he can't do it at school. He's not going to do it at home. What do we do in these situations? Being over assistive technology for the years I have been, I go straight to touch math. What do they like for a snack? Get out the Fruit Loops, get out the Skittles, get out whatever you have to. Build that one-to-one correspondence. Do your grouping. Teach them how to move those Skittles over. Have them physically touch it. The more modalities that you use to teach your child, the better they're going to learn it. Is it a crime to read to your child? Because what do the teachers say? Oh, don't make him read to you. Make him read to you. So, and you're like, oh my God. Okay? You're like, I can't do this anymore. Well, we watch teachers put books in front of kids that will look you in the eye and say, bless his soul, he can't read. So that book in front of him is for the picture? Why is there a book in front of him? That's denying that child his education, by the way. If you have a child that is very dyslexic, or a child that is a struggling reader, for that child to receive, it doesn't mean they're stupid. It doesn't mean they can't do it. It means that that's a weakness. So what do? God love the computer age for our kids. You put them on any computer with Word, it has a screen reader on it, hook that kid into a headset, let them, again, tried and true, with statistics to prove it, when a child follows along and it highlights the words and they listen, their retention goes up tenfold. Also, their fluency. They're not going to learn to read overnight. Don't disillusion yourself. But if I know that that child is hearing the information, if I play a short story for a student, they listen to it, and I sit down and ask them questions and they answer me those questions and get a 90%. And if I put that book in front of that student, they sit there for a day or two staring at the picture. Then I give them a written test. I sometimes get a name on it, and they get a 0. What was a truer indication of that child's ability? Why would we deny him? Why would we just throw it down and say, well, yeah, can't read? Yeah, it just isn't going to happen. No, we have to put things in place. Okay? It is our job as educators. It is your job as parents to work with the educators. We can't fault people for what they don't know, but we can fault ourselves for not asking the questions to get them to look for the answers. And as parents, it's going to take you guys asking those questions of the teachers so that they'll be like, hey, you know what, I didn't think of that, or I never thought about A, B, C, or D. And with Common Core, which we had it, we don't have it, we have EOCs. Florida's a mess. We're a mess academically, no two bones about it. But when you look at the curriculum and what's being presented to kids, I can honestly say I would not have gotten out of 3rd grade. I would have been stuck in 3rd grade for life. Some of the concepts they're teaching them when the kids come home with statistics, and they're doing mean, median, mode, standard deviations, skip counting, hop, skip, jump counting, doing this math problem this way, this one this way, and then, no. You have to also look at developmentally appropriate skills. cognitively, where is their brain to be able to comprehend what's being taught to them to give it back? Okay? So sometimes that's our job as parents, is to slow that down. If they don't get those building blocks at a young age, you're going to continue to have what we call the Swiss cheese kid, and they're going to have just holes, gaps throughout their curriculum because they didn't get those building blocks to build sequentially. Dick, Jane, Spot, Sally, come on. That was a great curriculum. All right? If I could open a school today, that's what I'd name it, and that's the curriculum I'd use. I would do it in a heartbeat, and people would think I'd lost my mind. And I can guarantee you, within 3 to 5 years, those kids would be so much higher achieving than any of the other kids with all this other nonsense trying to be taught to them, because they would have those building blocks. Break it down for the teacher. Make yourselves the teacher as the parent. Ask your kids, okay, honey, I know you say you can't do this. Tell me why you think you can't do it. What makes this hard? It's just hard. Okay. Well, it's 6 plus 3. 6 Skittles. 3 Skittles. What does a plus mean? No, what does a plus mean? Put together. Okay, so let's put them together. Now count how many you have. 9. 9! 9! I can do it. And then you go, okay, what's 9 minus 3? Okay, how many we have here? 9. Take 3 away, put them over here. How many do you have left? 6! I did it! I can't do this at school. They're right. In too many cases, they're right. Talk to your kids. Why is this difficult? Why is this hard? How can I help you? 9 times out of 10, they're going to look at you like, oh, if I knew that, good God, I'd be the teacher. Especially when you get up in the grades. You know, you hit that. You all know what I call basically the holding tank for the hormonally imbalanced middle school. Okay? Yeah. Walk in one day, you're their best friend. Next day, I hate you. And then 5 minutes later, I want a hug. Okay, whoa. And I expect these kids to learn, right? Is this really going to happen? So, as you start to get up in the years, number one of the first things they try to throw on our kids that are having problems processing is they want to put an FM trainer on their head. FM trainer is where the teacher wears a microphone, clips this on. The child has a headset with a box about the same size, and it isolates the teacher's voice to them because they think if they have them wear that, they're going to read automatically. Probably not. It does isolate the teacher's voice and block out background noise. It does work for that. Can you picture 11 or 12-year-old walking around school with one of them on? No. Babies, little guys, yeah, if you're really trying to get them to sit and focus. And I actually bought a passive. It wasn't a shock. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't a shock. Okay, but I had a little clicker, and I had this little thing that a kid wore, and it was just a buzz. And if I saw the kid get off task, I'd punch it. It was a little buzzing. Like that. I bought a bunch of those. And you know what? It's things like that that work, though. Did anybody know? Nobody had to know. Headset, no, that's a little obvious when you get up in the upper grades. The other thing is, with our kids with heart defect, like I mentioned Dr. Saidi earlier, Dr. Saidi, Fricker, Bleiweiss, I've worked with all of them quite a bit from Shands because I actually live in Gainesville, but I work in Ocala. And we've talked for years through Heart Heroes about the lingering effects of anesthesia on our kids and how they cycle through the alertness down to the, coming out of the anesthesia, how it's so suppressed and how they just have such a hard time. And they can't even tell you what they're feeling or thinking. They've just got that fog. How long does that last? What do we expect? It is okay for a child to be on a Section 504 plan if it's intermittent. It can be, and it doesn't have to be something, like you don't have to say, okay, they need to be pulled out to a smaller group for all testing. Well, when the kid's feeling good, they don't want that. But when they're not, they need it. And there's still a point where we have to be the adults and tell them, honey, we're still coming back. It's okay. You're going to be back with your friends before you know it. But for right now, I need you to be in a smaller setting so that you can concentrate. And they go, oh, okay. And most kids will be good with it. Your kids are little adults stuck in little kid bodies anyway because of what they've been through. And they're going to tell you everything under the sun, because they're an adult. But when you start looking at how much that impacts them, you also need to be very well aware that your child coming out of surgery is very much in line and should be done before surgery to be put on hospital homebound as a precautionary. Doesn't mean they have to take it up and do it, but that document should be on place. An IEP is then written for hospital homebound. And what that means is while your child is recovering, a teacher goes to the home and teaches your child. You don't have to use it, but that's a document for intermittent hospital homebound, is exactly the term. I have kids that at the beginning of every school year, actually the week before anybody comes back, I sit down with all the parents and I have back-to-back meetings and we put the IEP in place for the school year. They'll tell me she's going to have a surgery in April. He's going to have a surgery in November. I'm like, good to go. Let's get this document done. Call me the week they go in. We have services set up. When they're discharged and the physician feels that they're ready to begin learning again, we start recouping. We start doing a check and balance and recouping, okay? It doesn't mean we're going to come in and teach them all brand new concepts. We're going to go back and we see where they are. Did we lose a lot? There's a misconception that once their head is clear, they remember everything. They don't. Anesthesia is brutal. It's hard enough on adults, much less little people. Their bodies have to still flush all of that out. We don't know the long-term effects. Intermittent hospital homebound can be put in place prior to a tragic event. Again, there's a misconception that something has to have had happen for a child to be eligible. No. When the physician says the child's going to have surgery, they're already being treated for A, B, C, and D, this is why they need homebound. They have to do it. Okay?